Welcome to the Sing to Thrive podcast. My name is Julia Williamson.
And I am Maddie Monicelli, and we are the mother-daughter duo of Sing to Thrive. Today, we are joined by Matthew Kocel, a renowned throat singer and sonic alchemist with over 30 years of experience as a recording artist, transformational facilitator, and a multidisciplinary healing arts practitioner.
Known as the Cosmic Throat Singer, Matthew is a respected leader in the global sound healing movement. His music has touched lives worldwide with reports of profound healing, visions, and life-changing insights. With 3 albums to his name and tours across the globe, Matthew's music is also a favourite in Dr. Joe Dispenza's meditations and retreats. It's an honour to have him here today. Welcome, Matthew.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, and it's an honor for me to be with you as well.
Beautiful. Very excited for this conversation. So, Matthew, to get started, what is throat singing? Can you just explain the difference between throat singing and regular singing?
Yeah, there are many styles of throat singing from around the planet, and this is the English language attempt to explain the process of creating multiple tones with a voice at one time. We do this by bending the sound of our vocal cords within the biological instrument of our body. And there are many techniques and approaches to this. Sometimes some people call it overtone singing. Some people delineate that from throat singing. I try not to get too linear with it because I kind of span many different styles, and I am largely self-taught, and I've taken in influences from many different styles. But essentially, we're amplifying the overtones that are already present in the voice. We already have them as we speak, and we're just not hearing them because mainly we haven't been accustomed to listening for them. But by amplifying specific overtones within the voice, it can sound like 2 voices at once, or harmony being built on one voice.
Fascinating. And your tongue is literally doing something different, right? Like it's completely a different shape you have to kind of move it in a different way to normal singing, right?
Absolutely. There are many factors in how I shape the sound, and with my practice, the jaw placement, the shape of the lips, and the placement of the tongue, and just where I place the vibration, where I'm intending the vibration to be centered in my body. It might be in the front, it might be in the back of the throat, it might be up in my head or in the sinuses. And some of the techniques I feel resonate more in my chest, but it's all originating in the throat, and then we, send it in different places and become sound benders. And a lot of people ask, what is an overtone or what is a harmonic? So that might be a good place to start as well.
Please go ahead.
The way I would explain it is, if you use the example of a stringed instrument. If we pluck the string on a guitar, let's say, we hear the tone or the pitch that it is tuned to. That's the note. That's the fundamental sound. And we recognize that pitch because there's a specific number of vibrational waves coming off this string as it moves in space and time. Those vibrational waves multiply upon themselves. First they double, and then they continue to multiply into infinity. And those multiplications of the fundamental tone are known as harmonics or overtones. These are interchangeable terms. And so it's like building additional notes on top of this fundamental tone.
So just creating layers of harmonies, essentially.
Yeah.
In a way.
Simple.
Beautiful. That's so cool.
Yeah.
And so you're physically doing, because with throat singing, I was just listening to music for the last hour and nearly lost track of time being on it's beautiful. And you could really hear the harmonics in the voice. And I've always been afraid of using my throat too much because I had nodules in my 20s. And
Hmm.
so my technique wasn't, I was overusing my voice really and
Hmm.
singing in a key that was too low for me. And so I tend to really place the voice at, you're sending the voice up through the body into the chamber of the head and wherever I place it. So I was wondering, do you ever feel like you get vocal strain, or that's just doesn't happen? It was probably just my poor technique.
I have not had an issue with that. There have been times when I sang maybe too much, not in performances though, but maybe I did a performance and then came home and got out the guitar and got carried away and sang into the night, or went to a
Yeah.
party and the people were enjoying themselves so much, and I just love sharing music, and so I stayed up too late and sang and sang and sang and didn't get enough rest. And I felt some strain in my voice, but for the most part, I've been fortunate. I've been able to stay relaxed enough in the throat while singing and doing those techniques, partially out of luck, because I haven't had that much vocal training. But it is
Mm.
something that I'm aware of and I try to monitor. Um, what many people think when I do a specific technique, which the Tuvan throat singers call Kagara, um, again, there are probably other terms for this in different languages, but the Tuvans have popularized it in a large way, creating the subharmonic overtone, or you could call it an undertone, a tone that's lower than what my vocal cords are
Mm.
producing. It sounds like it would be hard on the vocal cords, but I find it quite relaxing. And I usually am singing a note with my vocal cords that is right in my speaking range, right around here. And then the harmonics, that subharmonic, is being created by the interaction of the ventricular folds, producing a
Yeah.
tone right next to the vocal cords. And so that produces that subharmonic, that lower sound. And so I'm not reaching low with my voice to produce those tones. And then there's also additional harmonics on top of that. One time I was giving a presentation to a high school uh, class in up here in British Columbia in Canada. The music teacher had me on a microphone, and that was going through a spectrometer. And the spectrometer showed, I was informed afterwards, that when I was doing that particular technique, he tracked 9 different tones at one time.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah, so I'm going to get one of those devices and measure
And
it
play.
myself. Yeah.
Yeah. And the key word that you used that just struck me straight away was relax. And I know back in my 20s, I wasn't good at relaxing because I was in my head, always worrying about whether I was good enough, or like all the limiting beliefs that affect our expression.
Mm.
And that was a question that I wanted to ask you, because from our work, we know the voice is intrinsically linked with our health, wealth, happiness, with your success. If you can't articulate yourself, so it's not just about singing, but singing is such a beautiful way, or a very efficient way, to show you A, where you've got blocks, and B, what your belief systems are, because it will come up to the surface. Have you found that with, yeah, do you feel like that's an important thing for the
Absolutely.
voice?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This is such a vulnerable part of our being, anatomically and energetically, spiritually. We are so vulnerable here, and many of us, myself included, were rebuked for speaking our truth or trying to speak our needs, or told we can't sing, told to shut up and be quiet, or threatened for speaking out, or even physically assaulted here. And for me, I was, as a child, I was very shut down, and my coping mechanism was to withdraw and not speak to my family, and I just I just shut down. And singing was my way out of that.
Mm.
Fortunately, as I was spiritually lost, you know, the religious paradigm that had been presented to me as a child wasn't working for me, so I rejected that, and I didn't have anything to replace it with. But I feel like music saved me and gave me a glimpse of a way to connect in ways that I couldn't put words to. And
Mm.
so eventually I got the courage to get a guitar and starting to sing. And I just loved the instrument of the guitar, and that it's so organic and portable, and you could take it to places out in nature or, you know, to small gatherings and make music spontaneously and just have this magic moment. And I wanted that. I knew I wanted that. So that
Mm.
was a big inspiration for me to make that leap and just trust that I could somehow sing. And so, you know, I tested the waters by myself and then for friends, and then got the courage to sing in front of my family, and then, you know, eventually became a performer, playing in rock bands in my younger days.
Yeah, I can
Switched to
relate.
bass guitar. And yeah, so that was a way for me to reclaim the power there and reclaim a part of myself. So
There
it's
was
really
something that
important.
you, yes, there was something you wrote that I saw on your website, and it was, as soon as I read it, I had such a remembrance because I can totally resonate with your story and using singing to self soothe, to just help me feel better. And it was when you connect the heart with the voice. And that's, I could always naturally do that as a child, but I
Mhm.
could do it on my own and in front of others, but there was always such a huge fear of judgment. But I believe that that ties in with all of our work here on this podcast, because it really is about when you connect the heart to the voice. I know my tone changes, I can feel it. I drop in, I'm singing from that space, and I get a full body activation. And it's even more prominent when I'm in a group, because we facilitate large groups of people singing, and we're
Hmm.
always singing positive, life affirming lyrics. And I know when that happens to me, it resonates out. Everybody comes, they feel it. And I just think that was such a beautiful remembrance for me from your words, going, oh, of course, that just nails what it is. It's connecting the heart with the voice. Yeah.
It makes all the difference in the world, and the effect that you're going to have with your voice. Let's look at Bob Dylan. You know, I mean,
Yep.
not
Okay.
technically the best singer in the world by any means. And he would probably not last very long on a show like The Voice or, you know, America's Got Talent or anything like that. But he changed the world because he was singing from his heart. He didn't care, you know. He was putting his soul out there, and
Yeah.
you know his heart was connected, and it's so empowering. It's what how you become fearless in vocalizing and speaking or singing in front of people, whether it's a vulnerable conversation or a concert for thousands of people. You know, as a singer, you both are, I'm sure, familiar with the that vulnerability. It's almost the ultimate vulnerability to get in front of people and to sing, especially if it's your own music. You might as well just be taking all your clothes off in front of a group of
Definitely.
strangers.
Yep.
Yeah, and so that could be terrifying. Yet, you know, we find a way to when we can connect here to the deepest essence of our being. We're all and tap into that vulnerability and power at the same time. We can change the world.
And I think
Yeah.
what you just
And
said is key. It's like actually not only just doing it, but practicing it. And
Yeah.
so it's like making it part of your, whether it's your daily or your weekly life and actually making it more of a discipline where you're practicing using your voice so that any fears that come up have the space to shift. Because otherwise, so many people, pretty much everyone who comes for a session, that's what they want to work on. They want to work on their confidence and feeling like their voice could be free to sing or speak their truth or whatever it is for them. But it's making singing in whatever way, shape, or form, even if it's just vocal toning, and actually making that part of a practice. But even, I mean, Bob Dylan's, obviously his movie's just kind of taken the world by force at the moment. But I've seen interviews with him where he just said, where people would ask him, where did these lyrics come from? And honestly, he was just like, honestly, I have no idea. He's like, I feel like they just came through me. It's almost like they came from somewhere else and I channeled the information. And I think in that situation, it is kind of tied in, because as singers, sometimes when you do drop into your heart and you sing from that space, it's like you are channeling like source or something greater than, whatever you want to call it. And yeah, it's really empowering, and it helps you connect with yourself on a deeper level. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. I like to tell my students that it goes beyond the doing and it's the state of being.
Mm,
And if you can come from that essence of your being, then it's going to come, that depth will come through, and
yeah.
that sense of connection and that impact will come through.
Yeah,
Mm,
and right there is spiritual growth, because that's what
Absolutely.
happens.
Yeah.
That we're in our hearts. Where I would say songwriting is one of the most effective personal growth tools. I would not have known that had I not uh, done a lot of it myself, but also running songwriting workshops. Man, does it bring up stuff for people, and they get so scared, vulnerable about sharing, because they might have a belief system around it's I'm not good enough. This is, but the biggest thing that I learnt with songwriting is the more personal, the more universal. We all have stuff. We're all going through stuff. And when you can put it out on paper and when you can sing it, there is some serious movement of energy there shifting out of the body, because the body stores trauma. Everything, it stores stuff, and anything unexpressed that we've ever not, that we've held back on, is still sitting in us waiting for acknowledgement. So how do you work with your people? Like, tell us a bit more about your story. And actually, I want to know how you came to be doing what you're doing as well
Well,
with the
we could be
throat
talking all
singing.
night to get there, but um, pain was the driving force for me. I had to find a way to connect to source, to spirit, to God, whatever you want to call it. And I just, I had to have that in order to continue living. And so, as I was pursuing music as the way of how do I want to contribute to the world, one of my biggest inspirations as a teenager, and still to this day, was a group from England called Yes. And they just seemed to be operating on a higher vibrational frequency and gave me a glimpse of there is a way to connect. Somehow this is happening to me as I listen to this music. It's hitting me on all these levels, from the primal all the way up to the most ethereal, and certainly in the heart. And maybe I could do something like that someday. And I was inspired also by, growing up in the 70s, the classics, Led Zeppelin and Deep Purple, and all the giants of rock. But Yes did something to me that just took it to another level. And Jimi Hendrix too. He's so raw, but he's like a sound shaman from the '60s, and he didn't get to live
Mm,
very long. while he was here, he blew the doors wide open on how we perceive sound. Of course, the Beatles were doing this as well, and many groups during that time. Um, then, as I became a performer, there were fleeting moments of this transcendence through music. Of course, I began professionally playing in what we call cover bands, where we were playing other people's music. And this is still in the time in the early 80s when there was live music everywhere. You could go to small towns or big cities all across North America and get paid for playing music. And so if you had enough skill, you could go out on tour and live that way and just make enough to survive. And you're playing music in front of people all the time. And so I did that for a couple of years and started to realize that wasn't going to get me where I wanted to go. So when I prior to that, when I was 19 years old, I was actually reading Jimi Hendrix's biography, and I had a spiritual experience as I was in the car with a friend. We were in university studying music. I only stayed in university for 2 years uh, before I quit to go join a rock band. But anyway, I'm reading the book as my friend's driving, and I started reading lyrics to a song I'd never heard before, not noticing that my friend had put a tape in the deck. And all of a sudden, Jimi Hendrix is singing the very words that I'm reading on the page in perfect timing. So I took that as a sign from God or the universe or from Jimmy himself that this was what I needed to do. And so I took a vow in that moment, okay, whatever it takes, not knowing how painful whatever it takes could be. And so I allowed myself to go through some really hard times, just keeping that promise that I would do whatever it takes. And in those days, of course, you needed a large record company behind you to make any big impact in the world with your music, and that didn't happen. I did form some projects, some bands that had music that was at the level I feel could have been discovered and gotten out there, but it just didn't happen. And so there was a lot of poverty involved and hard times. And meanwhile, I'm still have this spiritual hunger and this thirst to find a deeper connection. And I was pretty socially isolated, and my musician friends weren't on the same page as me as far as that spiritual quest. And I was just getting more and more depressed. And so one day, when I was hitting rock bottom, I just went to a bookstore and started searching. I found a book called Inner Power Secrets from Tibet and the Orient. And I opened it up, and the first chapter was about the chakras. And I knew I had found something that was speaking truth because I could relate my own life experience to all of these centers. And I just learned from this book about the human energy system from an Eastern perspective. And this all resonated with me. So I felt like I found a little guidepost at the trailhead, and I had a direction to move. And months later, I went to a metaphysical store for the first time, walked in the door, and I heard a sound that changed my life. That they were playing on the stereo quite loudly a recording of the Kyoto monks from Tibet. And so this is a group of monks that chant in this very deep voice. I didn't know what a mantra was. I didn't know what I was hearing, but I asked them, "What is this?" And they said, "Tibetan monks." And I just almost fell to the floor because I had this book, Inner Power Secrets from Tibet and the Orient. And so I bought that tape and I
Another
started
sign.
listening to it. Yeah, another sign. And I
Totally.
was still doing these musical projects, and the music was getting better. And it's like the carrot was just dangling in front of me. I kept reaching for it and going on, carrying on. And well, in 1994, I climbed a mountain in Colorado in the U.S. where I lived at the time, and I found a crystal on top of this mountain. And that's never happened to me before. And the moment I picked it up, my life changed. I was immediately laid off from my day job. I was a manager at a burlesque club, let's say. That's my day job. That's a long story there.
That could be a very interesting story.
Another book right there. Um, but and then the my best band ever was slated to go into the recording studio that evening, and we had a week of sessions scheduled. We recorded a demo that I still love to listen to today. Love the music, still love the guys, but the band broke up 2 months later. So I climbed the mountain, found the crystal, and the ground fell away under my feet. And I thought the universe had tricked me, this whole music thing. I just, when that band broke up, my heart sank and I thought, I'm walking away. Sorry, can't do it anymore. I quit. So I stopped playing music for a while, and I had been wanting to make some changes in my life to live more in line with my spiritual quest and to be more healthy and holistic. And so I got into healing arts and became a massage therapist, Reiki practitioner, meditator, taking all the meditation courses that I could. And it didn't take long before I got this inspiration to start holding meditation circles where I would be leading guided meditations. Who am I? Lead guided meditations? I don't know, but I just had this feeling that I have to do this. And so I would clear out the furniture from my living room in my bachelor apartment in the middle of Denver, Colorado, and people started coming over time. And it turned into this thing where we were having quite profound experiences. And eventually, English language wasn't enough to convey what I was feeling or wanting to share that I was perceiving, so I started to Om. And when I did that, people told me how they felt the sound moving through them and around them and how they felt the energy shift. And I was hearing more texture in the voice than I ever did when I was on a microphone with a wall of sound behind me. And I'd been aware of the concept of vocal toning. I'd been experimenting with that, but now with this as a tool for connection, spiritual connection and healing, it had a different motivation, I guess, other than just, oh, this is interesting. What am I doing here? So I began to explore that more and more. And I was still listening to this recording of the Kyoto monks, and I didn't hadn't learned their mantras or anything. I wasn't not able to reproduce the sound until around late 1999 or early 2000. A gentleman named Jonathan Goldman in
Yeah,
Colorado.
no, yeah.
Uh, yeah, he's known in the sound healing circles, written many books and recorded many albums. He had a weekend workshop on sound healing, and so I had to go. And he
Of
didn't
course.
teach this deep technique, but he demonstrated it once. He was talking about it, and he demonstrated one deep Tibetan style Om, and he said some people will get this after being around others who do it. And I just knew in that moment, that's me.
That was you.
That's me. And the next day, I got it. And so, yeah, I caught the flame, and
Mm.
that just lit me up. And so that was the opening. Through the meditations, through the quest for healing, driven by my pain and feeling lost and isolated on so many levels, I yeah, I found my way back to music, or music found its way back to me,
Mm.
and it began to unfold over time. So the meditations became more sound oriented. I started to incorporate it into my private healing sessions, and then eventually began to go public and to do public events. And then with each step, more music, actual music started to come to me. And so I collected different instruments And here we are. I've been able to travel, different parts of the world and create this beautiful music, and I'm in awe of it all. I'm in awe of the presence that comes through and the shift that it does for people. It can heal literally on every level, physical, emotional, our the way we perceive things. And I'm not the conductor of the effect. All I can do is maintain my connection, my grounding, my integrity, and um, my purpose, my driving force is to help bring coherence and healing to the world and to humanity and to the earth. We're so bombarded with confusion and incoherent frequencies, both artificial and from our emotions and our collective trauma from our history and biological destruction of the biosphere and things like that. We can still create these portals of coherence, and I believe it's critical that we do so and share this organic um, well of goodness that we can drink from and return to our hearts and reclaim our multidimensionality as multidimensional beings that we are, that has been hidden from us for eons. And I believe we can heal anything. We can actually turn this planet back into the Garden of Eden. And I'm hoping to live long enough to see that.
Absolutely.
Beautiful. And so on that
Beautiful.
topic of like helping for all of us to embody our multi-dimensionality, that's not how you say it, but
Dimensionality.
but what are some tips from your vast toolkit that you would have from all the multiple healing disciplines that you have? What are some things that people can do at home to help embody these things that we're talking about, to reduce their anxiety, to reduce their stress, and really start embodying their full potential? What are some things we can do at home?
Besides listening to my music?
I guarantee
Sorry.
you that works. That's definitely works. Although I was in some other dimension. I don't think I was actually in this dimension when I was listening to your music.
Maybe
But truly,
don't listen to your music in the middle of your work day and
Right.
everything will be fine.
Yeah, not
before
while
you launch
driving.
into those before you launch into those tips, I do want to just remark on how deeply felt and haunting, there's other words I want to find, but that your music is. It is seriously for the big screen. Like, it is presence. Like, it just brought me into presence, but also took me somewhere. It transported me, but I was aware of that. But I did
Mm.
lose track of time. So it's an interesting thing. And I did want
But
to say to
that's
you,
being multidimensional, right? What is
yeah,
time?
Exactly.
there were so many parallels listening to your story, because it was the same for me. Just excruciatingly self-conscious, very disconnected.
Mm.
And when I did start, the same thing, we would push all the furniture back. I would run these singing groups, get people to come to singing, and we were having profound, just with me and my ukulele and my voice, because I
Wow.
knew I could sing, and I was always okay when there wasn't someone in the room that was a professional musician.
Right.
So, because then the judgment would come up, I'm not good enough. But obviously, over time, been doing this for 20 years now, you have absolute profound experiences on a weekly basis. We're having them all the time. And what you just expressed then so beautifully, I'm going back to listen to it, that well that we can drink from,
Mm-hmm.
that's it. See, and with Madeline's question, like, what can we do? It is about using the voice more, sing to yourself more, put
Yeah.
on a piece of music,
Yeah.
really use the voice. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just
Yeah.
wanted to share that. Yes, please share some
Yeah.
tips with us?
Yeah, as I guess I'll start with like solo practices. And first is to, you can just listen to your heart. If you want a meditation or learn to meditate, a lot of, of course you can listen to your breath or just observe your breath. That's maybe one of the most basic meditations given these days. But there is a practice that I learned that came through the Sufi tradition, came to me through the Sufi tradition, but it's not a religious practice per se. It's just listening to your heart or feeling your heartbeat and focusing on that. And that in itself is utterly profound because there is so much in there. The heart is much more than a pump. And many of the ancient cultures,
It's not even.
some of the advanced cultures, considered the heart our higher mind. And we now know that the heart is sending more information to the brain than the brain sends to the heart. There's so many layers to it. But so just listening to your heart can bring you into a state of coherence. Coherence meaning equanimity or harmony. And that is a beautiful practice right there. And that will help you when you want to speak from your heart. If you've developed the skill of feeling from here, and that will help open up the intuition when it comes perhaps more easily to women to be intuitive and to feel from here, or maybe even from your gut, but men have the capability as well. And we all need it. The world needs it right now for us to um, interact with each other from here, from the heart. Um, being in nature, uh, to walk barefoot on the ground, to make that physical connection with the earth and have that electromagnetic exchange with the earth and whatever other levels of energy the exchange is occurring. Our bodies are from the earth. They're made of the elements of the earth. When we're done with this body, it's going to melt back into the earth. And we are one with this planet. And we have so many things that disconnect us from that we actually need this connection. So to lean against a tree or hug a tree, get on the ground, get into your garden, get your hands in the dirt. These are all touching plants, interacting with plants. It's all things that can help us just reconnect with the true essence of our being, which is so magnificent. And then, yeah, using your voice. Even if you feel like you can't sing, you can hum. You can just hum any notes and self-soothe with that and use that as an entry point to a meditative state or to a greater connection with the universe. And one practice I'd like to offer people, if I may, is to cover your ears and hum. And this is a really easy posture to do. If you just cover your ears with your thumbs, you can rest your hands like that and just
Yeah, you can
with your,
feel the vibration.
yeah, it's amazing. And as you close off your ears, the sound is internalized and it sounds magnified in so many ways.
Yeah.
And if your arms get tired, you could sit at a table or at a desk and rest your elbows there and just continue to go. One time I got up in the middle of the night, I wasn't able to sleep, and I said I would use this practice. And after just a few minutes, when I stopped, I went into the silence. It was as if I could hear a gong ringing. And it lasted for a couple of minutes at least before it faded out. And I haven't experienced it since then, but I think it's just indicative of what can happen, that you can open up something very deep just by listening to your own voice. In the bathtub is another way to hear the multidimensionality of your voice as well. So if you dip your ears into the water, leave your face out, and do some humming or toning or singing with your ears submerged, again, you're going to hear so much more of the qualities in your voice, and the harmonics will be amplified because sound travels through water more efficiently and quickly. It's like magic. You'll be a toning god or goddess in the bathtub.
You charge the water up too.
That too.
Yeah, with the frequency of your voice, because every
Woo!
note holds a certain frequency and has healing properties.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, so you would be charging all the water molecules in the bath and in your body anyway. But
your body too. Yeah.
yeah, that's a cool,
I
cool idea.
used to do that when I was a kid. I used to do that because you could do, I'm just wondering now, doing that, I would often hear the harmonics, like,
Right.
and I'd just be singing one note, but I'd hear, and of course, a bathroom's ideal for that because of the hard surfaces as well, because your voice bounces back. So, but that's not throat singing. That's different. That's where I was, yeah, I'm asking the question really, like, because I was creating a sound and letting my environment bounce that back to me in such a way where I
Exactly.
heard more harmonics. Yeah.
So it was showing you that those harmonics are
Mm.
already there. So by making little adjustments in the shape of our biological instrument, we can amplify those harmonics that are already present. They're already there, and we make them more audible to the human ear and to ourselves and to people who listen. And I've also found that by working with the harmonics, by searching for them and producing them and listening to them more, you become more attuned to them. And I think I'm hearing more detail in sound in my environment now than I did when I was younger, just because I probably have developed the neural or auditory
Yep.
centers of my brain. And when I think of all the high decibel environments I was in for several years when I was younger, uh, and I'm getting close to my 64th birthday. I should be partially deaf at this point, but I'm doing pretty well. And yeah, exhibiting no signs of hearing loss. So yeah, I attribute that to working with harmonics.
Yeah,
And
and it's interesting too because if you think about our belief systems and the way we explain it a lot of the time, with your subconscious beliefs, you will perceive the world through the filters of those belief systems. And
yeah,
that almost translates to music too. So it's like the more you learn about yourself, the more connected you are and more embodied you are. It's like those filters of your ears change as well, and you notice other things. I don't know, for me there was some kind of correlation with that in a sense of,
absolutely.
yeah, like when you're aware of a belief system, you start to see the patterns, and it's almost the same with sound in some way.
Yeah,
So
and
we're always evolving.
I think just the act of listening to music and perhaps creating music as well, it opens up our ability to perceive the patterns in the universe and things mathematically make more sense. And I think there are studies that show that kids that study music, learn music, do better with math and science because they can conceptualize
Yes.
these things better. And so music is such a valuable expression from where's it coming from? We're tapping into something that we hear, and then our bodies are vibration, and this world created vibration, and now we're producing more vibration that helps us remember that we're all connected in this ocean of vibration, and
Because we are sound. We are
because we are
literally
sound.
sound.
Yeah,
Yeah. And I'd love your perspective on this. I believe, and I saw it with myself, and I've seen it with clients, and I've read really fantastic research on this. How your voice, so each person's tone is their signature tone, and just looking at the word signature because it's the sign of nature, so that your voice can unlock your original DNA blueprint. And this is what the Tibetan monks believed. and that vocal toning would help to activate that within the DNA. Well, that's sound. That's your unique sound activating your body's blueprint. And so, yeah, what do you think about that? And have you had any experiences where you've had sort of a full body reaction to sound?
Oh yeah, lots of them. um,
Yeah.
but I do absolutely believe in that. Also, mm, the medical science considers what 96% of our DNA they call junk DNA, and
Yep.
that goes against the rules of biology because in nature nothing is created that we don't keep anything in our bodies that is not being used, that's not useful. And so, what is this? What they call junk DNA? In my opinion, this is just my intuitive sense, I guess. We are the product of who knows how long humans have existed and where we have evolved from. But all of that is in our DNA, all that history. Certainly, we are the children of the survivors of great civilizations known and unknown that have come and gone, risen and fallen. We're the children of the survivors of great cataclysms. And, we keep finding these evidence of advanced civilizations that go further and further back in time, where they obviously had knowledge and technology that we don't understand now. And so I believe all of that is encoded in our DNA. And I've been calling that in my public events as we prepare to go into the journey of sound, aka the concert, calling in for the activation and awakening of these ancient memories, these ancient skills, capabilities for our full humanity to be remembered and to be reactivated. All that will serve us on our highest purpose and our highest potential growth and evolution at this time, in this moment, in this junction of human evolution, which is a critical time. Things are changing so radically, and we don't necessarily want to go where some forces are
Yes.
trying to lead us, right?
That won't be
I
happening.
believe that's really it's an opportunity. All this opposition to the betterment of life is squeezing us to go within to find the treasure that we hold, and that's my intention with the music. I believe this time is why I'm still alive and why I came
Yeah.
here and why I've been able to tap into this form of music that has such a profound impact. Um, yeah, that's my opinion.
And it becomes a whole, like you did say this before, but there's such a bigger purpose behind the music and
Yeah,
behind your concerts. When you think of a concert, you think, yeah, we'll go and watch a band or someone perform. But really, what you're doing is it's a spiritual journey for people. You're holding
yeah,
space and creating sound frequencies, and people that are ready for that will most likely be very drawn to it, like you were drawn to the different things throughout your, evolution. And that's exactly what we do as well. We're holding space for people to express and use their own sound because it is
yeah,
a spiritual experience
yeah,
with what we're doing.
yeah. When you stand
Yeah,
in your
I would
truth,
love to be over there and be at one of your concerts. You better come to Australia.
I would love that for sure. I've always wanted to. I've never been to that part of the world, so let's put that in the field to
It's
manifest.
pretty special. It's pretty
A
special.
lot of people don't want to go back.
Uh huh.
Mm.
I
Well,
have a
we're
very
actually on that subject of being in a different part of the world because I wanted to mention this to you. I just had an intuitive feeling. I mean, how awesome would it be to have you with us? We're going over to the UK to do, well, not the whole Bellinus line, but we're doing sacred sites in England and Scotland because my ancestors are Norway and were part of the Viking, the Gunnar clan, and we migrated over to Scotland. And I can feel, I'm already getting activated talking about it. We're very blessed to be going over there with a gentleman called Darren Diogi, and he's what I call the word alchemist. So he's like an English, he just knows language back to front and how to create word spells on how our language has been manipulated, right? Because they want to control us. So it's learning about how we can use and phrase words and how we can use our voice and sound for our spiritual journey. So anyway, Madeline and I are going over and meeting up with Darren, and we're taking a group of people over to sing the ley lines because
Oh,
I've done a lot of work for the last 20 years with an earth healer, Maggie Landman. And I mean, Madeline was 3 when I met Maggie. And that was a profound experience for me because really learning, oh, my entire reality is a product of my beliefs. I'm creating my reality through my belief systems. And knowing that I had to heal the trauma that happened in my childhood, and the body unraveled slowly back then for me. It wasn't something that just happened overnight. I was learning bits here and there, and all of a sudden I'd have a recall and I could go through and do the healing work on that. But when I started bringing sound, when I started singing, because I walked away from singing because it was all too hard. When I brought singing together with the healing work, that's when I saw so much expansion in my life and in the people that I was working with. And that's, I guess, the message that I'm wanting to say to people. We are constantly creating geometric patterns in our field that ripple out to the field. So from your voice, the tone of your voice, the words we're using, the sounds we're creating, and with that conscious intention, we can literally reshape our reality. And so part of the reason I feel so drawn to go over there, it was always sort of a childhood thing. I want to go there because my uncle used to drive the Loch Ness tour bus and tell great big grand stories about the Loch Ness monster.
wow.
But yeah. And so now we've got this opportunity, but I have had so much cellular memory coming up. And I think when I was listening to your music, that actually activated it as well. Because tell us about some of your music productions. I mean, Grace, I love Grace, and Valhalla was amazing. So, and are you using at the beginning there? I'm just interested in the instruments because being involved with a lot of Indian kirtan, it's got a very similar sound to sort of the bagpipes, and I'm just wondering what are the instruments that you're using to drone with because they're fascinating.
Well, on songs like Grace and Valhalla, I'm playing the harmonium,
It is the
which
harmonium, yeah.
yeah, and that's a really interesting instrument because originally it was a European instrument, an organ that you would
Ah,
play with 2 hands and pump with 2 foot pedals to push air through the reeds. And when India was colonized, the Europeans brought the harmonium there, and the Indians adapted it to be this more portable instrument. So what I have is this little box that actually folds down upon itself. It's about this wide and this long,
oh, I'd
and
love to
I
see
can
that. Yeah,
has a
wow.
handle, and I can carry it, put in the overhead compartment on an airplane, and then unfold it and pump with 1 hand and play with 1 hand. And so the songs are structurally quite simple. Sometimes just a couple of chords, maybe three. But and then I also have a shruti box, which is like the little cousin of the harmonium, and it has the same mechanism of a bellows, but rather than having keys to play as in a piano keyboard, you just have these valves that open up, and you can choose the notes that you drone on. I also use crystal singing bowls and Himalayan singing bowls, the metal bowls, uh, koshi chimes, which are these wind chimes made in France.
Yeah, they're
Um,
beautiful. I've got some.
yeah, it's so lovely. What else? Ting shas, which are the Tibetan little cymbals they come in a pair. They're tied together with a string, and you clang them together. They're close to each other's pitch, but they're deliberately tuned just slightly different from each other. They create this standing wave or a binaural beat. So they're this ancient
Mm.
brainwave entrainment device that just so happens to be shaped like a flying saucer. Strictly coincidence there.
Strictly
And
coincidence.
yeah,
And so
so
I
I
imagine it's a whole intuitive process too for you when you're doing your music, because you
yeah
were
with the
saying before
music.
that you're not trained. So I would imagine you're just sort of going in there and channeling and tapping into your heart and creating from
Yeah,
that space.
the music comes as an inspiration or a repeating melody in my head, and then sometimes I'll just catch that and flesh it out. And as I get something that feels like it's really landing with me, then I get musical ideas to go with it, and I've learned over time that if I can develop a song or a piece of some kind to the point where I really like it, that means other people are going to really like it too. And if I really feel it, then oh, that works. As long as I'm feeling it, then a lot of other people are going to feel it too. Uh, I don't know. It took me a long time to really get that, but that seems to be the fact. So
Yeah, I agree. Couldn't agree more. That's me. If I'm creating, I did something last week where I just thought I need something for tonight, and I was feeling inspired about the cyclones, and just thought we don't appreciate wind, and I was just sitting with wind, and then I just wrote this song, and I loved it. So I shared it with the group on with my online class, and then I took it to the live in person event, and everyone was mesmerized. And that's what happens
yeah.
because we can feel it when it's it's nice. It lands beautifully on us. We just know. So yeah.
It's
Yeah.
Anyway,
also tapping into what we've spoken about already today is that like it's almost that channeling and being in tune with your intuition, but sometimes it shows in a different way. Like for me, for example, this week in my singing circle on Thursday, I wasn't very organized, if I'm honest, and I didn't have a class plan. And so I was like, all right, I'm just going to wait and see who shows up, and I'm just going to intuit the best songs for the group on the day, which is fine. I know my material enough that I can do that. Anyway, a friend who's been coming to my classes for many, many years, and I felt like it was just an average class. I was like, oh yeah, that was fine. She said, she was like, that's the best class I've ever been to. That was my absolute favorite class ever. And I was like, what? Really? That's so,
finally, she's getting it.
I'm like,
Finally,
that
I'm
is
just
so
going to
random.
interject here because Madeline is a very organized person, and I can tend to be the opposite with class. I always rock up, and because anyone can come, like whenever. So we
Hmm.
never know who's showing up. So you're literally intuiting on your feet. It's just like, oh no, they can't handle that song. We better do this one. But good
Yeah.
on you, Madeline.
But normally I sit and I intuit and I set an intention beforehand and be like, okay, what songs will the group need today that will be perfect and in alignment with who's going to show up? Like I set an intention and do it that way. And I don't always stick to my plan, but it's also that like setting that intention as well, which I think is the foundation and the fundamentals of everything you're saying with even your recorded music and ours. It's like, okay, what's the intention behind it? And what is the intention within you, and how embodied is that intention when you go in to record these things? And
Right.
that's what people can feel, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
amazing.
absolutely.
And so with songs like Valhalla, that's obviously Viking slash, you know, that kind of Norse myth related gods and forms of heaven. Is that part of your heritage? Like, what inspired you to tap into
Well,
that energy?
it probably is part of my heritage because I do have some ancestors that were early colonists in North America that came from England. So, you know, the Vikings surely made their presence felt there over the years. So there's likely some of that in my bloodline. Um, for me, the titles come after the music
Okay.
for the most part. And so as I had this piece, I was, you know, just trying to feel into what is this? You know, what is it? What does it bring up for me? And it was just that lineage is what I was feeling as I listened to it, and that's why I chose the name Valhalla. Pretty simple. I just listened to it and like, okay, what is this? And I think along archetypal realms for the most part. It feels like this music is somehow tapping into these ancient bloodlines, timelines, other lifetimes. Yeah, this is,
Definitely.
yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. Awesome. That's amazing. So, um, just as we start to bring this podcast to a close, what exactly are your current offerings and where can people find you?
Well, my website is matthewkocel.com. Mostly I'm doing live events right now, and I'm a little bit behind on getting my online offerings together. I'm very impressed with you two having your course online, and you know, just looking over the material describing it, I'm very impressed, and it's beautiful
Thank you.
what you're putting together and what you're offering. So I want to be more like you.
Well, kidding.
Maybe you need a trip to Australia and come down under.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, no, you
and
have to
yeah.
come over. You have to come over September when we do the
That's to
Oh
the
my,
sound
UK though.
journey over there.
That's not to
Mm,
Australia. You'll have to plan 2 trips.
okay. I
yeah.
love to
We'll,
travel.
we'll
I
meet you
love to
in, well,
travel.
you could do a concert over in the UK and tie it
Oh
in with the same.
boy, could I? Yeah.
That's, you just need some help with management, really. I can help you out.
Yeah,
No, but what
that's
other
true.
offerings do you have? What other
Uh,
offerings? Is there, they
yeah,
can find you on, and your music is phenomenal. Like people can find all of that on your website.
my recorded music is on all the streaming services, including YouTube. Um, you know, of course, Spotify, Apple, et cetera, et cetera. And I have live events coming up around British Columbia and in the early summer, I'll be heading over to Alberta, Canada, which is kind of a long ways from here, but not when we're looking in context of the planet. Um,
And
I
when you say
don't have any.
early summer, sorry, what month is that for you?
It'll be the last week of May and first week of June,
Yeah.
and yeah, I should have the rest of the year planned out already, but I don't. So I'm still booking my summer and beyond.
That's okay,
Um,
because in your autumn, your fall time, you're coming to the UK and you're going to come on our Sacred
Oh,
Sounds pilgrimage journey.
Matthew, you have to
yeah.
come.
Oh my. Yeah.
Seriously, it'll
That.
be
It'll be
amazing.
so epic with all of our voices.
Oh
Oh,
my.
because I mean, your tone, Matthew, is you really have got such a beautiful tone.
Thank you.
And Darren is this expert, like vocal
Oh,
toner
damn.
sounding person too. And then Madeline is like this angelic from some dimension that is just incredible. And I've got a beautiful tone, much deeper and richer than Madeline's. My voice naturally sits lower than hers, so she's always doing the
Mm.
harmonies.
Wow.
And then we're inviting people from my singing group or anyone that wants to come, but it's only a small group, so we'll
How
keep you
many
posted
people
on
do
that.
you, how many people do you
There'll be
anticipate?
there'll only be 16
Okay.
maximum. And that
Wow.
includes there's 3 facilitators.
Uh-huh.
And then if you are there, then we should organize some sort of concert. Like, I'm serious, I'm actually
For
putting it
sure.
out there.
Yeah.
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 And
It'll be
all our
amazing.
listeners can pop in the comments if they'd be keen to see this.
Oh, absolutely. It'll be
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah. So I do
So,
offer, besides my live concert sound journey, I do play in both large and small venues. But I do offer a 2 day voice activation experience. So in that safe, sacred container with a small group of people, usually maximum 20. I think the most I've had in the group is 24. I teach all of the vocal techniques that I use. In that process, while people are having the freedom to play with their voice and to explore their voice as they would from, as a child, then all of this calloused energy, all of this shielding and blockages that have built up over time just begin to dissolve and fall away. And it's been really remarkable to see the changes that people will go through when they free their voice and give themselves that permission to vocalize. It's
absolutely.
magic. Yeah. So
Totally.
yeah, I need to put that in a bottle and get it online as well. And yeah, I need a manager, like you said.
Well, we do. We all
We
need a manager.
we need one too.
I just, I need to share with you as you were speaking. I've never seen this before. A bird came in, and I don't know if you can hear it, but it sat on the chimes and started ringing them just outside my door here. That was trippy. So I would just like to say before we close, do you have any last words you would like to share with our audience?
I would like to tell people to keep your faith in humanity and keep your faith in love. Don't let the fear get to you. It's a crazy world right now, especially, and buckle up because we're gonna go through some turbulence. And just remember who you are. Listen to your heart. Follow your intuition. Trust yourself, and remember to love people, even those you disagree with. One thing that I learned, one of the hard lessons for me that I really need to get over the last 5 years or so is that we need each other. Even those that we disagree with and that might feel are in opposition to us, we're all connected, and these are just aspects of ourselves that we're seeing in others, even the ones that it's most hard to accept. So love, and yeah, we just have to keep returning to love and forgiveness and forgive ourselves so we can forgive others. We can't be perfect. We're humans. I make mistakes. I do things that I regret, say things that I regret sometimes, but just give yourself permission to rise again and try again to be better. That's my message.
Beautiful.
I love that. That's a beautiful message. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. I've really enjoyed this, and I hope that we can become sound friends. I thought that was
Consider it
funny
done.
when yeah, consider it done. And I also think let's chat and because maybe we can do an online workshop together and yeah, I can help you with some of the online stuff and you can, yeah, I'm sure you'll be able to help me with some of the voicey stuff, the
Sure.
sounding stuff.
Uh-huh.
Sounds beautiful. So for everybody, thank you so much for tuning in to the Sing to Thrive podcast. And let us know what this episode has shifted in your perspective to voice and sound, and your relationship to it. So thank you so much. And until next time, sing to thrive.